So the reason I'm building an MG Midget, because I like them. They're fun little cars, they're cheap. I had one when I was in my 20s. Fun little car, it kind of felt like a really cheap, slow Porsche with the headlights and everything. And I liked it. So years on, I picked up this guy here. I actually traded a motorcycle for it because motorcycle insurance is ridiculous. And I could not afford, they wanted like $3,500 a year for this motorcycle for insurance. I'm in Canada, I can only drive it like one day out of the year because the rest are horrible. So I said, I'm gonna trade it. I found this online, I did the trade. I've been happy, really happy with it. This car probably sat for 12 years. She hasn't warmed up and I got no choke. And it has no muffler, but who needs a muffler on a little 4-cylinder like this? Just put a big soup can on the back and you're good to go. It wasn't running when I got it. Has little dents and bruises and stuff, but it's a driver. It's something to have fun with. And that's what you have to remember, guys. Have fun with the stuff you have. Don't worry about the next guy who's gonna buy it. Use it while you can, while you still can walk and talk and do all that crap. But it's a project, right? Everybody needs like 13 of them. So this particular Midget, it's actually one of the better years I would like. It's a round wheel arch. A lot of them had the square wheel arch on the rear tires. And it also has the 1275cc 4-cylinder, which if you look into a lot of like the British stuff, those guys hop them up like crazy. And they actually have a really good like racing circuit over in England. There's nothing like that over here because there's not that many cars. And I'm slowly working on it. I let my wife drive it all the time, it's fun. And then I bought this thing. So I got another one too that you saw in the other video. I fit in it. Rich does not.
It's tight. That's cool. I could do it. If you could give me another 2 inches, I could do it.
That's what she said. It is a neat little car. I do love driving it. It's like a little go-kart. That's the cute thing about this car. Look at the turning circle. It's 65 horse, and you just throw it around corners. The other day, it was kind of funny. I was driving up a hill, and I'm revving it out, and I think I'm doing like Mach 1, and there's a guy in his Honda Civic just cruising in front of me, and I'm just screaming the car, keeping up behind him, but it's a different feeling. You feel the road, you feel more connected. The thing is so low, it's a lot of fun. British cars aren't really well known for not rusting, so I picked up this guy, even though this one's already had a ton of body work. And when you look at the body of them, they're in pretty rough shape, especially being up here in Canada. So I wanted to throw some bigger power, so that's why we got the other one. So I might as well do a shop intro. This is the progress so far on my shop. I've got a lot of junk in it right now that needs to get reorganized. I just finished the ceilings, which is old steel roof from the old barn that was here. It's insulated with like a couple hundred bags of insulation up there. And then I just finished plywooding the walls. So this building is, you can see it maybe over here, it's all concrete. So that's the concrete core, and then there's styrofoam. It's ICF, it's called. Pretty good system, I really like it. We did it all the way up to the peaks. So, we're starting this video off. I gotta get on the Dirty Midget project. I picked this up off of Kijiji, the Canadian Craigslist. Here's the PTGT, and we're gonna start ripping this motor out. I don't really want to be starting to pull motors and stuff out right now. I'd love to get this hoist up that I bought a while ago. But I need to pull this motor and get it to my buddy Eric up in Barrie so he can make a flywheel for it. So I don't need to make a custom flywheel, but I have a guy who'll do it. So I'm gonna start stripping down the PT. First I'm gonna drain the fluids, most people do. And we're gonna remove some plastic. Stupid. It's stupid clip. Probably useless to me. But there's the whole intercooler assembly. It's not a bad little unit. I'll free up some more of this stuff in here. Undo some motor mounts. I'm gonna leave the front wheels on because I want to have this as a rolling chassis so I can move it around. I'm probably gonna keep it for a bit for the electronics. I think the way I'm gonna do the ECU and all that stuff is I'm gonna use the PT Cruiser stuff, but I'm gonna use a newer computer from a different year with a manual transmission because I'm swapping mine to manual, and then I can use some of the gauges, and they wipe out the anti-theft on the ECU, so then you can use a regular key, or I'll do push button or something silly. Another problem I was looking at is the drive shafts. So I just cut them quick with the angle grinder. It was actually really easy than trying to, you know, pop out the lower ball joint and then have this back, the tire swing out, you know, to get it out. So I just cut it, and I can leave the tire the way it is. This motor has got some pretty good corrosion on it though. I'm gonna have to do some work. Check it out. But it did run great, so, or good. Good enough for a junkyard motor. But this body, I was looking up where to jack from. That's right by the front cross member. On both sides, it's just rotten. Good old Dodge or Chrysler steel, eh? So, there she be. We got her out. It fought me a little bit. Engine mount here in the frame. This upper one here, which was pretty easy. And this lower one, those were easy. And then there's one on top of the transmission. But this exhaust was a bugger to get to. It was tucked in behind, so what I did is because I cut the shafts, I could tip the motor forward and then I could just cut. But it was just a little bit of a pain to get in there. I didn't try cutting the flanges off, they're all rotten. I probably could have broken them, but whatever, I only have a crappy angle grinder. The transmission's coming off, I got the new one. All of this is coming off because I'm not going to have air conditioning or power steering. This intake I'm going to take off and build a new one. And we got the little cute turbo. We'll run that for now, I guess. We'll see if it's any good first. Next thing is to get that pile out of here. So I might use this and just pick it up and forklift it. Forward and reverse lever on it's broken, so I'm just replacing it. It's a buddy of mine's. One thing I did learn about today is I really need some better power tools, like one of those like ratchet wrenches or something. It's fun, but it's a lot of work, so anything to make it easier is always good. Okay, it's another day. I got the engine cleaned up a little bit, took out some of the grime. Looking at it, I definitely am gonna have to go through this motor a bit and clean it up a bit more. But today what I want to do is I want to try and fit this in the chassis. Well, there's going to be a lot of butchering, but I'm going to have to cut out part of this trans tunnel too. I just want to get the minimum cutting so then I can know what I'm working with and go from there. Safety first. I want to get the bell housing back in here, so I got to come back like 8 more inches because I'm not clearing the front cross member, which isn't a huge deal because I'm cutting all that out anyway, but for now I just want to get it in the right spot. So I think the problem right now is this is hitting the in this section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unbolt it up here for now. I really don't think I can run the like log style manifold, and I'm not sure if I'm even going to run the stock turbo. Stock turbos on these motors, I've read they can do up to 300 horsepower. He's a cute little guy though. You can't really see in there, but turbo's actually not in bad shape. So if it fits easy into here and I don't have to modify too much, I'll probably run the stock setup. But if there's going to be a ton of custom work just to get it to fit, I might as well spend the time, replace all this, put in a better system, And if I'm in there already doing it, I'm gonna make more power to, or try to, or pretend to. One of those three. So I got this bugger off. It fought me all the way. I got 3 of the studs out, no problem. It's always the one in the back that gives you the biggest problem. But I got it out. I had to pull the motor out to do it. And I just got to do a little bit more relieving of the body, or what's left of the body, to get the motor in. So I'm just gonna zip out that cross member and just cut a little bit in that area and on the other side, and chop a little bit more of the trans tunnel, what's left of it, and set this thing up and keep cutting. Yummy delish. That was all in the trans tunnel and that cross member. I should be able to get it in. I've relieved this now. So it'll just bend out of the way. Probably gonna have to just cut that all out eventually. Build it all new. I also put these cross braces in temporarily just to keep some more structure in the car. It's just left little bits of shelving I had left over. So we've got the trans in part of the way. I want to try and get that lower down in because it's a bit high right now. It doesn't really matter. You know, I want to get it like that close, so I want to move it back another 4 inches, 5 inches. So. So I had to take it off the cart that it was sitting on because I couldn't get the transmission low enough in the body. So I just threw it on some jack stands. I relieved a little bit there for the turbo. I cut a little bit more out of this cross member. And yeah, you see the jack stands, I just threw it on the back just for now. Nice and solid. And I'm gonna try attempt number 3 to get it in there because I want to put the hood on it. So I shoehorned it in. It fought me a little bit, but not too bad, as you guys saw. I just kind of placed it in here right now just to get a feel for the car, to see where my clearances were. Right now it's kind of close to the hood to get it to close, and the oil pan is sticking a little bit too far down. So on this particular car, when they built it, the frame was the lower, it's like a flat bottom car. So having that oil pan stick out below will be the lowest part of the car, and I really don't want to do that. So either I gotta raise the motor and put a bump in the hood, which I think looks absolutely hideous, and I don't really want to do it. I guess I could have the cam sticking through, that'd be kind of neat. Or I'll make a custom oil pan or find an oil pan that'll fit. If you guys know an oil pan that will fit this, a simpler one, because the PT Cruiser one has the oil filter and everything bolted to the side of it. If you guys know a good solution to find a lower profile oil pan, I got lots of width. I can make it wider to keep my capacity up. I just don't have the depth. Any solutions there would be much appreciated. The motor's not sitting in perfectly straight, but it's good enough to get a general idea. I think my next step to do is I'm gonna order up some steel to do a new frame. So what I'm planning on doing is cutting out all this original. It's kind of like a unibody frame construction all in one. So it does actually have some frame rails, but I'm gonna cut those out and put a little bit more beef in and kind of hybridize it a little bit more to get some more strength, and so it doesn't twist like a pretzel when we put some power to her. So this is actually a cute little system they got going on. Tiny little turbo, and with the log manifold all built into one with your wastegate and everything. So the way the flow works on this is it comes through here, this side, spins your turbo, and then dumps out back into here, out your exhaust. And this is your wastegate here, and that opens on vacuum pressure. So to divert it either way to bypass the turbo. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna use it. I'm like 90% sure that I don't know. It's a percentage in there between, I don't know yet. But It's a little bit tricky for me. I gotta wrap the pipe around here, and this is a pretty small turbo for this motor. If I put a bigger turbo on it, this motor can make a ton more power. The idea is maybe building my own manifold and putting the turbo at the front here so the exhaust can dump straight down here in front of the passenger's footwell, and I can have the intake go through the intercooler a lot easier instead of having it point towards the cab of the car. I was looking on eBay for some Chinese turbos, and they're like $100 US. So it's quite tempting. If I'm gonna do the work, I might as well go big, right? Some people are asking why the heck I decided to do this, why this combination, why this, why that. Well, I wanted to build something cheap, really cheap, make a lot of power. I wanted to stick with a 4-cylinder because I wanted a nice light engine because this is a tiny little car, and I always wanted to build one of these. So if you guys want to have a kind of a look at comparison between what I'm doing with that one and what an original one looks like, we're going to open the hood here. And you can kind of see, so you can see in this, it's a much smaller 4-cylinder motor. It doesn't have an overhead, dual overhead cams and all that stuff. One major upgrade to this motor is putting this GM alternator on it. Toss out that Lucas alternator and throw on a GM one. They work better. Once I did that, they work a lot better. This car, I gotta redo all the wiring. It's a rat's nest. I've been working on it. I gotta cut most of this out. It's garbage. So in this car, you can really see that the motor is sitting more forward. It's just about over the tires, a little bit behind. Kind of in the middle of this engine bay. It works well, but when you put a little bit heavier motor and tranny in, it's gonna throw the front end of the car around a little bit differently. The other motor pretty much sat like in this area, closer to this front bar here, more over the front suspension. So I wanted to push the center of gravity more to the middle to get a better weight distribution in this car to make it handle even better. Now I can put a full-size radiator from one side of the fenders to the other. I can put a huge intercooler. I've got tons of space. So I've got my SRT4 motor, which is out of a PT Cruiser. So I got my Dodge motor hooked up to a Jeep Liberty bell housing. Jeep Liberty or Jeep Wrangler from like 2003, that range. They actually had a 2.4 liter motor, so they made the bell housing. So then I connected that bell housing to this transmission, and it's a MA5 or a AR5. And this transmission was in Chevy Colorado. It was actually in H3 Hummers and Pontiac Solstice, I think. The Sky or something, one of those. And it's a really strong transmission, that's why I went with it. There isn't like a definite number I saw for power rating, what it can take. But some guys say they throw 500 horse at it, 500 horse, and it lives up to it. This light of a car, that's more than enough. I don't think I'll destroy it, so that's why I went with such a bigger transmission than I've seen in other swaps. And this is like the ultimate junkyard combo. I haven't put a ton of money into it. Everything kind of bolted together really nicely. One thing I am gonna have custom made is the flywheel. And I'm gonna get my buddy who works at a machine shop to do it for me. So, I gotta trade him some beer for it. Most people to get it done, built it would cost a little bit more, but you gotta pull those favors in when you can. One more thing on the build is to keep it truly a mutt. I'm gonna do an independent rear suspension. That's what I'm planning so far. I haven't 100% committed. But I want to get an 8.8 rear end out of a Ford Explorer because apparently those are really bulletproof rear ends, and it'll be complete the ensemble of different companies working together. So if you guys didn't see it, I picked up these brakes. They're actually Brembos, but they're on an ML 550. A lot of the bigger Mercedes had nice performance brakes on them. These are the rear rotors, but they're nice big rotors. I might change the rotor size, but at least I got these fancy calipers. So yeah, you can check that out on the other video. Rich was helping me harvest. He harvests them and I just filmed them and made fun of them, but that's how we work out. But I'm gonna try and get those to fit on here. I'm not 100%, but I'm like 90%. I'm gonna try and make them work. Some people say there might be too much brakes. I'd rather have more brakes than no brakes. So that's why I'm going with this setup. And we're gonna have some fun with that. Trying to get that to work.